Namaste and a very, very warm welcome to each of you from wherever it is that you're joining us. A very warm welcome. We are proud to present the Global Yoga Circle, of which you are an inextricable part. This presentation is brought to you by the High Commission of India in Singapore and Pragya Yoga and Wellness, with, of course, the collaboration of so many friends across continents and across countries. And what makes it special is the fact that you are here with us. Today, of course, we are going to be joined by a very special person. Danilo joins us from Brazil today, and he is a very, very special person because he represents the meeting point between ancient wisdom and modern science. He is a yoga teacher, a researcher, an educator, and one of Brazil's leading voices in yoga therapy and integrative health. With a background in physical education and a master's degree in psychology and physiology, a PhD from the University of Sao Paulo, he has been studying the effects of yogic breathing practices and postdoctoral research in neuroscience. He has dedicated his entire career to understanding how yoga influences the body, the mind, and the brain, and our overall well-being. He teaches yoga therapy, anatomy, physiology, and works at the forefront of integrative healthcare in Brazil. Today, he shares with us both the yogic tradition and contemporary science, helping us to understand how these ancient practices support health, resilience, and flourishing in modern life. Today, I am very, very proud and privileged to call upon my friend and, of course, a very, very bright person to our circle today. Welcome and take it away.
Thank you, Sujata. Thank you, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here, taking part of this amazing celebration that Sujata has put together with so many friends and representative organs from yoga all over the world. It's really a real honor to be here. Thank you so much, Sujata. Okay, friends, I will take no longer talking before starting because I really want to share with you some practical experiences as well as some theoretical data and fundamentation, rational, as why yoga and specifically today, meditation both have a great deal to contribute to mental health, and it is nowadays proven for our society that really demands such proofs of integrative effect of so traditional practices on our behavioral characteristics, and it seems to me that our society all over the world needs to be supported by modern investigations, but we tend to forget that tradition came to us from centuries, millennia ago, and it's being formed by experimentation. Yoga, meditation, has formed on a cognitive basis, on an experiment and success and fail basis. So all our rishis, they have developed this formula, if I am to use a modern term for it, in the basis of experience. And experience is the basis of science. And science is so young. Yoga, we couldn't even try to speak of its age, its elderly basis. Some talk about 3,000 years, some talk about 5,000 years. And if we go to our beliefs, we would say that Shiva always teaches yoga to the human beings when the universe is recreated, when Brahma awakens. So we are much older than science, but we take support of it. Okay, so let me share with you something, and we'll start the lecture. So, are you seeing my screen? Is it shared? All right, thank you.
Yes, quite clearly. Thank you.
Great. So, let's see. First of all, when we talk about meditation, it's important to address this term, metacognition. What is it? What does metacognition means? So when we are practicing meditation, any kind of it, we tend to focus our mind. Okay, we begin with dharana to hope that the dhyana happens. Dhyana is not something that we practice. We practice dharana, and dhyana happens. Because dhyana is done not by the self, it's not done even. It is a state, it happens. And when I'm doing something, it means that I'm under the what we could call ahamkara. Okay, I'm individualized, I'm personalized. So what in me during these states that are beyond ahamkara, what in me notices that this state is happening? This is metacognition, okay? And it's being addressed through yoga and Sankhya many centuries ago. This is what we mean in, let's put together science and tradition. So this is the human being, yes? We have our indriyas, which are the organs and senses all put together that makes us interact with the world, which are the horses. And what connects the horses to the chariot master is manas, that puts all the senses in interaction with buddhi, that takes decisions and makes us deal with the human world and all our worldly lives and interactions. And there is also another person there in this chariot, which is Atman, who's the great observer and is being like a witness to all that's happening. Okay, so if we change these terms from ancient language to modern language, we have this. We have the senses, we have the mind, we have the intellect. And when I asked Google to translate consciência from Portuguese to English, it didn't give me consciousness, it gave me awareness. But awareness is not, it doesn't even come close to the concept of Atman. Consciousness, a little bit. But we are so limited by terms in like, you know, Descartes, you know, probably one of the masters of creators of modern science. So he's explained everything in, as we call, Cartesian plan. Yeah, so yoga, meditation, and Hinduism, all of them transcend it. When we compare psychology to yoga, it's difficult to make so many correlates, because psychology is phenomenological and yoga is transcendental. So when we talk about Atman, it's much more than consciousness, because consciousness is limited to ahankara. Consciousness is limited to the individual. And when we talk about even buddhi, we've already transcended it. So it's what I'm bringing here to you is just a glimpse of what science is starting to come to the path that tradition has already walked many years from now. So we understand metacognition as the ability to understand and control one's thought of processes, ability to reflect on one's thinking about what's thinking or who is thinking, why I am thinking. It's like I'm giving you this lecture, this class, and there is something here in my brain organization that is seeing Danilo speaking all those things for you. This is metacognition. And Atman goes beyond it, goes really beyond it. But what I'm trying to tell you is that meditation exercises metacognition and gives us access to a glimpse of this Atman that we are. We all are Atman, like disguised in this human form that calls and is called by something, by somebody, by everybody, by Danilo, by Sujata, and Luis, and everybody else. Okay? So, I'm going to ask you to try and witness this consciousness, this metacognition, in a small practice that is called, that is something that I used to make my first postdoc research, which is called oddball, auditive oddball. So oddball is like we are in World Cup happening just now. Yeah, Brazil has played yesterday, and it's like we are hitting a penalty, and the player is hitting the ball always in the same corner of the goal, time and time over and over again, and then he changes and hits it in the other corner. This is the odd ball. So if we listen to this, this is the all in the same corner ball. And then you listen to this, it's the odd ball. So repetitive, distractor, and odd. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you is to count. You just pay attention, you close your eyes, and I will mark 3 minutes in my chronometer here. Let me put it here. What is it? All right, here. And I'm giving you these sounds, and every time you listen to this different sound, you count. Are you able to listen to all the sounds I'm making? Okay, because sometimes Zoom just takes them away, okay? Takes them away. All right. So, and you count. And afterwards, we're going to have a small talk about your experiences, okay? All right, so let's begin. Okay, start. Close your eyes, pay attention to the sounds, and count all the different ones. Okay, open your eyes. And first of all, how many odd sounds did you count? You can write in the chat if you want. Let me see the chat. 25, 27, 25, 24, same number, 25, 25, okay. I have a good news and a bad news for you. Let me begin with the bad news. I didn't count. So I can't tell you how many were them. But the good news is it doesn't matter. The point is you had a task, but the task wasn't the important deal. The deal was what happened while you were performing this task. How many of you noticed some intrusive thoughts? Okay, I'm supposed to count the sounds, and while I'm doing that, probably let me go around something that you may have thought. Okay, oh, what a dull task. He was supposed to talk about meditation, and he's making us count sounds. And he also studied that. After a PhD, oh my God, it's so easy to do those things. Why haven't I done that? Oh, I'm doing this. I could have been sleeping for 3 hours already. I'm losing my time doing that sort of stuff. Or no, you say, oh, where is he coming with that? How many of you have had some kind of thoughts in between counts? Put here in the chat, please. I never count. Did not count, I was just concentrating. None. Wow. Amazing, Jolie. No thoughts. So we have real meditators here. Congratulations. Congratulations. You are amazing. But this is what happens normally when we are beginning our journey through meditation. We try to focus and the mind comes. You know, when I was a kid, like 4 or 5 years old, I think yoga was already like, I couldn't have been anything else in my life than a yoga practitioner and a meditation practitioner. It doesn't matter if teaching or not, but when I was a kid, I lived in the seaside here in Brazil, and sometimes in the winter, always during the winter there we have the weather's not so good, so we have like a soft rain all over the world the day, and so I had nothing to do. I couldn't play outside, and then I started playing with myself, and I started thinking, okay, now I'm going to try and stop thinking. You 4 or 5 year old kid, you know, okay, I closed my eyes, whether I was at the beach or in my family's house garden. Okay, stop thinking, stop thinking, stop thinking, stop thinking. Oh, I managed. I have stopped. Oh boy, I have to start all over again because I thought. I was meditating. You see? Then people can hardly believe that we come with experiences from previous lives. I really believe that that is an example of such. Okay, so let's continue here. I opened my screen here to see you all. Okay, I'm closing now. Yeah. All right, so what happens when we age? Our brain loses many functional and structural characteristics. So we have fewer synapses. Synapses are the connections between our brain cells, our neurons, okay? The blood flow to the brain reduces. We have decreased cortical thickness. You know, the cortex is formed mainly by neuron bodies. And as these cells are diminishing in number, the thickness of the brain, of the cortex, decreases. If you imagine a walnut, you know, walnut, here in Brazil, we eat them normally in December, in Christmas time, because we don't have them all over the year. When you open a walnut and it's healthy, it looks, the young brain looks just like it. It's a little, their reentrances, their folds are all like tough and a little bit fat. And when you open a walnut that is already dry and it's not good for eating, their folds seem to be thinner. And the same happens with the brain, okay? And we lose cognitive plasticity. We lose the ability to adequate our behavior to newer happenings and things that just come to our senses and to our interaction, daily interaction. So, and it also expresses itself as a reduced connectivity. Part to part of the brain, they talk to each other in a mathematical correlational way. And this ability to, for this part of the brain, interact with this part and with that part and with that other part, this is what brings us what in science we call consciousness. So when we lose the ability of talking brain to brain areas to interact, we lose consciousness, or we have consciousness decreased, or cognitivity, plasticity decreased. And here we have a graph that shows that many things decrease as we age. Here are years of age, yes, okay, here 90-year-old fellows that took part in this research. And we have vocabulary acknowledged that decreases, reasoning, memory, and speed of thought. The only thing that doesn't decrease is spatial visualization, probably because we entrain this ability all over our existence. Okay, well, there is something that happens when we are, let me check the time, okay, when we are doing that experiment that we did together, the oddball, when we are studying the brain with electroencephalography. There is, when we listen to the sound, it takes us around 200 milliseconds to notice when the sound was given. Okay, so P, then 200 milliseconds after, I listen and I take, I get to know that I've listened. And then when you are listening to the repetitive ones and the different ones, like 250, it happens, this positive that is going down in EEG, when it goes down, it's positive, when it goes up, it's negative, okay? So positive in the Z line, in the center line here of the brain, we have a different slope of the line that says, okay, I listened and I am now checking if it's the distractor or the target sound, the oddball. And when I count, it comes even more below. So it happens between 300 and 500 milliseconds, this positive line, which they have called now P300, because 300 seconds is the average moment when it happens. All right. So this distance from the sound to the point that I counted is called latency. And if it takes longer, it indicates a decreased cognition, capacity to discern. If it's earlier, it means increased cognition. And if it goes down more and more, it's called amplitude, this difference from the baseline to where it came. And amplitude or breadth is, it indicates the neuronal availability. So how many neurons are available for that task, attention task, Okay, so this is one of my volunteers then in Rio Grande do Norte, in Natal, in the Brain Institute. And I only show her picture because she is a colleague, she's a researcher, and she gave me authorization to do so. Okay, we are not we are not inserting these needles in her head. Okay, they are really broad needles, only to put this gel to increase the electrical conducibility to for the lights of each electrode to become green like this one. When they're red, they're not good yet. Okay, and then she had an ear pod in her, to listen to the sounds, and then I've done this preparation and this experiment 1 month before and 1 month after an everyday practice of pranayama and focused attention. Okay, so this line here is this dark black line is the means for the group that didn't practice, and this is the line from the group that practiced this controlled breath and attention. So you see that we have a different amplitude. The group that has practiced yoga has more availability, neuronal availability for the task. And we also have I'm showing you here an example of the brain of one person, but it's representative of everybody in the yoga group before and after training. All right, so before they recruited neurons from this area here, which is where we make the decisions whether to count or not. But in the front, all over the brain, it is represented in green, and green is yet a moderate degree of activation. But after 1 month, the frontal part of the brain is blue. Blue means deactivation. And the focus area, the area used to make the decision, is broader and still red. So we have much more electrodes noticing that the brain is working in this area without having to pay to use so much energy in the attention area. So it means that we are performing the attentional task in a much relaxed way, much more focused way. Sorry, I should have deleted this. I'm not going into that one. And I'm going to show you another work that I did in the second postdoc here in Albert Einstein Hospital, also in the brain laboratory. We noticed that people who practice yoga for at least 8 years and are elderly. Here in Brazil, we call the elderly after 60 years old. Okay, it's changing, I know. Some of us have already passed that, and we don't consider ourselves elderly. But in the worldly society, it's 65 years old from the World Health Organization. In Brazil, I don't know why, but we use 60. Okay, so women, we had only women volunteers, so that's why women, that's only because of it, who practice yoga for more than 8 years and are already, after 60 years old, have increased cortical thickness in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is related to memory, to attention, to cognition. Okay, so let me show you This study was done with magnetic resonance. This is structural magnetic resonance. That's why it can measure the thickness of the brain. So all these areas, I could say, they remain as younger brains are. So when the people age practicing yoga and meditation, our brain diminishes its speed in drying the cortical area. So we keep cognition possible. I could say, by the results of these and the other results by Sara Lazar from Harvard, who is our colleague in this publication, we could say that we may say that yoga and meditation are responsible for preventing, or may give us the ability or the possibility to prevent mental dementia, elderly dementia. Okay, senescence dementia. This is another work that I'm the main author, and you see here Sara Lazar, you see here, where is he? Hui, who is the first author of that other work, that I investigated the same people, but in a functional way, to see if this area talked well to this area, to these other areas. This is called, as I said, brain connectivity. And we have a specific brain network, which is the default mode network, that comes into action when we are not doing any attentional task. And it is increased in people who are depressed. Its activation is increased, and it is greatly related to rumination. I don't know if that's the term in English. Maybe it is. Yeah. And rumination it comes from the equestrian animals, yeah, that ruminate food, but we do that with thoughts. And the more we are engaged in rumination, because rumination it involves ourselves, normally it's related to ourselves and to bad possibilities of happenings to ourselves. So catastrophization, catastrophes, we have thoughts related to those. And the more we are depressed, the more these areas are working. The default mode network is active. But when we are asked to engage in an attentional task, we are supposed to diminish activation in default mode network and increase activation in salience network, in frontal areas of the brain, which we will engage in those attentions. So then I studied areas which are very important in the default mode network, the medial prefrontal cortex and the precuneus, which this precuneus that is down behind here and a little upper in our brain is an area related to the consciousness of the being, all right? And when we used those areas to correlate with all over the brain, we had a really positive correlation between the medial prefrontal cortex and this angular gyrus. So in the elderly. And then, I didn't translate to English this, I'm sorry. These are areas related to speech, reading, writing, number processing, spatial cognition, memory, and attention. Okay, so this is another proof that meditation and yoga can increase our abilities of maintaining our cognition healthy. This is another work, and I think I will, after that, go to our practice, that proves in a much more sophisticated way that the groups which practice yoga and meditation have connectivity increased in comparison to the control ones. Let me explain you all these lines. When the line is darker, it means a greater connectivity, a greater correlation of all these structures in the left side of the brain with these other structures, which are the same structures in the other side of the brain, in the other hemisphere. Okay, so normally, and that's something that I have to say, please forget that idea that the left side of the brain is the rational one and the right side, please, for God's sake, for Atman's sake, for Brahman's sake, forget it. It is a misunderstanding. It's old. Neuroscience has proven that it doesn't happen. Creativity and rationalization all demand both sides of the brain all working together. Please don't spread that idea anymore. It's wrong. Okay? It's really, 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 really wrong. All right. So then when these lines are thinner or less dark, lighter, it means a decreased correlation. But when we see the brain here in the control group, they have anterior and side-to-side cognition and connectivity really great. In the frontal part of the brain, and also some connection in the posterior part of the brain. But we have no connection of the posterior with the anterior part of the brain. There's no, you see, there's a white region here that no blue line crosses. And these are elderly people. So they have lost this ability. And in my first work that I shown you, the frontal part is the attentional part, and then we have some parietal processing and posterior processing that will engage us in the response, the answering action to the first insight. And here, practitioners of yoga and meditation, we do have this cognitive connection, look at the meditation brains. We have connections crossing all brain regions. So it once again proves that meditation and yoga, and these, when he compared both groups, yoga and meditation, there was no difference. Even though they look a little bit different, statistically they are not. And both of them are different from the control one. Okay, so let's stop talking and lecturing about theory, and let's go to the practice, to another practice. Okay, we have many kinds of focused or practices of dharana, okay, and concentration. We could go for open attention, we could go to focused attention. We used to say that we have an anchor for our attention, which is like our mental driven activity. So this anchor may differ. It may be a more rough anchor, like paying attention to the sounds that we did. The sound is an object, so it's a little rougher anchor, but I could pay attention to some feelings. I could have my attention driven to the love concept. So it's a much more subtle anchor. And normally for beginners, we tend to use rougher anchors because they're easier to focus on. Okay, so I will use with you an anchor that comes in between both of them. We're going to use breath count. So let me explain it to you. It's really easy, really simple, but it's not easy. There's a huge difference among these two. Okay, so when I inhale, you can choose to count inhalations or exhalations. Okay, you choose. Either way, either one is okay, but only one of them. So I will count my expiration. So I inhale. I don't control, I just let breath happen. Inhale once, exhale, I count 1, 2, 3, and then it goes from 0 to 7, and then from 7 to 0. Okay? But there's one small trick. When you notice an intrusive thought, like, oh, this is very easy, you have to start all over again from 0. Okay? All right, so I will mark, let me see here, just, okay, it's 9:45, let's do it for 3 minutes. Okay, so I will go a little bit further. So please close your eyes, take a comfortable bodily position, and start. From 0 to 7, from 7 to 0. The task is not to go and come to the end. You don't have to succeed. You're not a bad practitioner if you don't pass, don't go further than number 3 in the upward direction. It just means that you're really, really, really paying attention to the no thoughts and the thoughts and coming back to the anchor. We have 2 more minutes. Okay, open your eyes. Come back to our class. I hope some of you could notice if it was easy, if it was difficult, and find that moment in which our individuality plays its role. I could not get past 2. Am I doing it right? Am I at 2 already? Can I do more? Yes, you can do. But listen, when I started, the first time I did this exercise, I could get only into 4 going up, okay? But as I practiced more and more, my results became worse and worse. So it doesn't mean that I was failing. It just means that I was paying more attention to small, little intrusions of my individuality. In the beginning, we don't notice them. Then we say, oh, this is easy. I go upward and backward. It's really easy. I can go and come like 7 times plus 7 times 7. So no, that's not true. It's not easy. It's really difficult. Because when you start paying attention to these subtle little glimpses of thoughts, is when you are beginning to increase your viveka. You're discerning better. You're starting to notice what's really important, which is nada. And sometimes nada comes when we are practicing each and every kind of meditation. That sound that is not driven by any percussion, it might indicate that we are trying to get a little closer to our reality. And that is what differentiates the effects of meditation of the effects of mental training, modern mental training. So people tend to say that, okay, so you age well in the brain, you have to do Sudoku, you have to do mental arithmetics, you have to go crosswords, practicing. And meditation shows that it's the opposite way. It's this relaxation of logical thoughts, this cognitive rest that meditation gives us that increases brain health. Because we can't go wrong on that. Our mind may be our best friend, but it's normally our worst enemy. So we have to disengage, and meditation is what gives us this possibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Danilo. This was such a treat. And I think for most of us who have logged in and in the middle, perhaps, or came in late today, to catch you up very quickly, Professor Danilo Forgeri Santella is in Sao Paulo in Brazil. He is joining us to explain neuroscience behind meditation. Until yesterday, we talked about the different limbs up until Pratyahara. So the bridge between Pratyahara, the outer ones, which is asana, pranayama, etc., which are visible to everyone and are relatively simpler to practice. But as Professor Danilo explained and demonstrated so clearly to all of us with the 7 breaths and the oddball, that, you know, we think we are the masters of our mind until we are faced with it. And then the science behind it, the neuroscience of synapses and how they communicate with each other. So they say that neurons that wire together, they fire together, and we are able to cultivate So the message really for us is that we can cultivate these and train ourselves slowly, so that the higher three limbs, which is, I wouldn't call them higher, but more internal limbs of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, are now something that is reflecting inward. So you're taking the lens and turning the mirror inward to yourself. And that in turn helps us to cultivate. And like any other muscle, we can exercise our muscles like this. Shall we turn on our videos for a little bit so everyone can see each other and we feel like we are more connected, if possible? And if it's safe for you, please turn on your videos. Thank you. And so if we open our hands and close them like this, we are able to exercise hand. And then over time, yes, let's do this. And like we always do in everyday session, since Professor Danilo wasn't part of it, extend your arms open like this, everyone. Okay, and let's make our big, wherever you are in the world, know that we are joining hands with you in this global yoga circle. And now give yourself a good hug with compassion and kindness and connection. Feel that warmth and tap yourself, pat yourself on the back for having done well. Tap, 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 and lift the sides of your lips a little bit. Yes, that's it. Very good. So the thing is, when we are working with our brain, we are able to then exercise the muscle of the brain that Professor Danilo was sharing, and to understand how the science works. As he rightly mentioned, that ancient yogic rishis and the science itself has endured millennia. And why has it endured? It is because the very technology is so sophisticated that it changes the pathways and helps in deterioration of the mental decline and the cognition that we were talking about. So when we change our behavior in a particular way and when train it, we are then able to see the results. There are some questions that I see for Professor Danilo. So let's take a look at that. For the studies that you did, we have a question from India. What yoga and meditation practices were performed during the experiment or the research, and the duration to record the outcomes or the conclusion of research? So this question comes from Ravinder Chaudhary from India. And if you can help to, were there protocols that were validated and then you use them, or if you can help to enlighten us on those, so that if there is a particular asana or a particular pranayam that all of us can do, and at 90 we can be very, our brains can be very young, then please share that with us so we can all do that.
Okay. I think the question that refers to protocol is related to that one of the EEG that I showed. Yeah. Okay. So at the beginning, I taught them Kapalabhati because my intention was that they practiced Bhastrika Pranayam in the traditional way, not in this distorted Kundalini Yoga way, okay? Bhastrika is a pranayam that encloses Kapalabhati plus Surya Bedan or Ujjayi Pranayam, all right? So it's like 20 Kapalabhati, I've done 20, then Surya Bedan. Done it fast, just to give you the example, okay? So they did it 45 times every day. But the Kapalabhati was to their capacity. So 40, 50, 60 each time, plus times 45. So it was a really big amount of breath work. And they should focus their attention to this work, this respiratory exercises. So it was more like a pranayamic exercise than a dharana exercise. but they've done it every day for 1 month. And I've chosen to study Bhastrika Pranayam because here in Brazil it is a great confusion, because people tend to think that Bhastrika is that thing.
Yes, I think around the world there has been a lot of, explosion of yoga, and also, newfangled. Someone goes to India for a week, learns how to practice something, and then, shares it without understanding or really knowing whether it's appropriate. But if I can request you, Professor Danilo, to share that paper with us, then we have, I know we are competing with football and other things in the world right now, but we have 250 participants who have registered for this work, this event. So we can share it with them. And I'm sure that the, research paper will have protocols that you might have as amendments or something like this that we can make available to participants who may be interested in research. Because I think when we look at practices and our modern educated mind looks at research that says, oh, this is going to help me, we tend to feel much more attracted to it, even though these practices are very simple, as Gopalaji had taught us 2 days ago. And so many practices are easy, comfortable, but the ask is that we remain consistent. So it's not doing too much or very advanced things, but doing simple things that are good for us, and we do them consistently. So consistency is key. Speed is not equal to progress, right?
No.
So we need to slow down. And really, to encapsulate all of what was shared today, I think it is awareness and relaxation. When we combine these two, we are able to, the mind's infinite potential is unlocked. And we are able to then access into things that we thought are miraculous. There is no such thing as a miracle when we look at the science behind it and we look at the training behind it. So we have access today, luckily, to the most incredibly sophisticated technology in terms of the practices that are given and the way in which they are taught. So looking at them from classical yoga perspective, and then practicing them under a proper guidance will lead to enormously beneficial results, so that we can, 40 years from now, do another event like this, and you will all be there with your brains so sharp, and Professor Danilo can talk about a longitudinal study then done on all of us. So I also want to, yes, I really want to thank Professor Danilo for such an amazing, enlightening conversation, practices, and also the science. Most people are very afraid of science, and whenever a graph is showed, and whenever we add the word PhD, most of us get scared, and we want to log out. But I'm very happy to see that everyone has stuck around today, and that means that you presented your research in a very clear and a very concise manner. So thank you very much for making it user-friendly to all of us as well. Tomorrow is going to be the the grand finale. We go to the mothership. We go to India for our last session. And this session is going to be integrating all of this. So even though we hadn't spoken to each other, all the speakers here, we ended up doing it so beautifully that all the limbs of yoga today, we are ending with mind training and the focus in the mind. And how beautiful has it been? So tomorrow, I want to wish all of you a very happy International Day of Yoga. And then we'll meet on the same Zoom link that you have. If you have not registered, please register, because we'll share the slide deck that Professor Danilo will share with us, or with his permission, and if he can and share some of his research, then we can add it to things. Professor Gopala also has sent a beautiful PDF of his practices that he shared. So I think what is coming together, and what was really an idea, like Professor Danilo said, A week and a half ago when we spoke, we were just talking generally, and this idea has turned into a complete event, and it is possible only because of each of you. So I'm truly grateful to all of you for showing up here, some of you day after day, and for some of you for the first time. So thank you one and all for being part of this global circle and for sharing your energy and being here, because connection, connectivity, and compassion is all what we are about. And let us end today's practice with just a short dedication. So gently join your palms together and close your eyes softly. Allow the body to relax completely. As Professor Danilo said, two things. First is deep relaxation, completely relax. Think of something very happy and gentle and soft for you. And then the alertness of the mind. Allow for clarity to emerge from the stability of the body posture. Just one breath, draw it in through the nose and exhale gently as you begin to feel a sense of ease, comfort, balance, harmony, and peace within yourself. Know that all beings everywhere wish for the same. No matter where we are on the planet, we all wish for happiness. So from your heart, extend to all beings everywhere. Wherever beings are, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be safe. May our practice today truly benefit all. One breath, one heart, one community. In your own time, slowly open your eyes and let's close with a big, bright smile. Thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same Zoom link. Ciao. Muchas gracias.
Ciao.